Hey, how's everybody doing, man? Welcome to Talking Shit with your boy, the Sophisticated Jerk and the Manny Genius.
Yo,
So today we got a good clip for y'all, but let me go ahead and pull that up real quick. This one's called
Hmm.
The Ones We Used to Call Squares Are Now the Real Ones. So I think it's a pretty good message, but let me go ahead and play that, man. We'll break this down.
Try to make sure, like, my friends that didn't choose the streets, the ones that we consider to be squares, like, I always try to make sure I tell them how proud of them I am, because they the strong ones, they the tough guys, they the ones who didn't break. Most of us broke early in life, man. We fell to the pressure, we fell to the temptation, and they came outside the same hood and walked past the same temptation, all the shit that's going on, the peer pressure, and they stayed focused. They stayed focused. They ain't let that shit break them. All the girls calling them lames, not wanting to give them no pussy because they considered to be a square and corny and all that shit, and they still stayed on course. They didn't break. Then you got us that going in and out of jail, and we come home and motherfuckers praise us like we did something so good. Like, oh, what you did? Oh, because you ain't tell. Like, oh yeah, because you was so ignorant. You was ignorant on a high level. We rewarding you on. They go some clothes and some money in your pocket. Welcome home. A homie who just did 4 years in college, we ain't got shit for him. And I'm talking about me. Cause it's dudes that went to college, came back and seen me, and I ain't have nothing for them. Yo, what's up, yo? I'm proud of you, bro. But my man who come home from jail, niggas trying to figure out how to scramble up some money to get him some outfits and all this shit, man. Straight ass backward shit. And the ones who we consider to be the squares is the ones that always show up in the end. Those is the real friends. The square ones is the ones that always come and show up in the end and hold you down. They deserve their flowers. They are the real ones, man. Always try to make sure.
Yeah. So what's your take on that message, man? My man was spitting.
yeah. I mean, he was spitting, man, from and he was coming from a place of conviction, like, and this is what happens when you are able to um reach a level of maturity where you can really self-reflect on like your past decisions and acknowledge that not everybody can do this. Acknowledge that you've not always made the greatest of decisions. And like shout out to him taking accountability and sharing that message, because I think that was Warren G.
Yeah.
So definitely a very influential person in hip hop and just the culture in general. So for this to come from a man of his caliber, this is big. And uh you know there's a lot of talks about being a leader, especially on the internet, and like people defining masculinity and what being a leader is and being an alpha male and all these things that you know we want to put at the pinnacle of what being a man is. And what Warren G spoke on was exactly that. Like in some cases, people that we would consider squares or um corny or not cool, they're really just alphas, creating their own path, and they're not going outside following what the rest of the people do. So, um, it's funny that it's a funny realization that you know that I mean, even I personally come to the same understanding. It's just you know when you don't do what everybody else does, you're gonna get different results. And if you're in a negative environment and you're able to overcome that and not, fall victim to being a follower, and you're a true leader, um, your outcomes in life will be different. And I think that's what Warren G was speaking on.
Yeah, nah, definitely, man. I think this was a great message, and it kind of lines up what we always telling people, man. Like, stop worrying about what everybody else thinks, man. A true leader, man, you're gonna have to sometimes it's gonna be a lonely path because you're gonna have to go against the grain and you're gonna have to go against some group sometimes, and people just ain't gonna understand it. But it's funny, when everybody's talking about vision and goals, it's just like where you're headed to. So you just got to start toning everybody out. But I did like what he said because a lot of people they do tend to praise the wrong things.
Mhm.
And then it's just like, everybody got that sheep mentality where, oh, okay, everybody's like clowning these individuals. Let's jump on board and stuff because I'm scared to do the right thing and stuff. So a lot of times, even though people that like, join some of those groups and stuff like he was breaking down are some of the biggest followers. And,
Hmm.
a lot of times, people are, downing other people because they looking for validation from other people. So like you said, it's the furthest thing from leadership. And then at the end of the day, the sad thing is, man, when you start going through life and you get older, there's no cool 60-year-old dudes, man. Like that's hanging out and stuff, because man, I got a lot of people that like I said not too long ago, I was talking to some of the older guys that I knew from back in the day, man. So I'm 44 and they was like in their 60s. And it was the saddest shit because all they could kind of do was refer to like stuff that happened back in the day. It's like them back in the day dudes. It is just like they were looking dingy now, don't have like no retirement. So they have to work like any job that they could get. So it's like, yeah, you might appear like cool and have your shit together, in the front end, but when that back end catches them people that people were clowning, they out there, they living their best life. Like you said, they driving a sports car, man. They got their family in the best neighborhoods. They going on them family
Hmm.
trips. They enjoying life. You guys sit back and watch that. So now I like how he captured that. And then another thing was when he mentioned like, which is also funny, and I heard somebody else say it too, where people would throw the biggest parties for people that come home from jail. They'll have the yellow envelopes back in the day and stuff, gathering up money for them. But the person that goes to college and stuff, like no money on the books for their tuition. It almost be like discard them. But once they make it and stuff, it's like, hey, come back and pull us all up. After we
Yeah.
neglected you, we ain't do shit for you. And then the people would not wonder why, like people kind of turn their back on people because it's just like, hey man, y'all kind of like excluded me from everything, but now you want me to come back and like split my resources and stuff. So a lot of people like, man, forget y'all, man. They don't understand why some of them people might have those sentiments and stuff. So man, I love this clip because when he was breaking down, it's just like, man, we gotta start looking long term. I don't care who it is, man, woman, based on race, whatever. It's like people gotta look long term and start playing the long game. Cause like you said, I like what you said, man. That person that's sitting there and not partying, locking down, like reading them books and stuff. Shoot, man, they they looking at that bigger picture. And when next time you see them, they could be rolling around in them cars that you dreaming about, living that life that you looking at their house like, damn, I wish I had that. So the roles reverse, very quick. So anything else on this one? This probably ain't gonna be a long one, man. I just definitely like the message on this.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, yeah, I'll just wrap it up with like, you know, everybody wants to be a leader, but sometimes being a leader is difficult because the path is not as clear. You can have a vision, but you know, sometimes, a lot of times, being a leader, it takes, you know, going against the grain, especially if you want different results from everybody else. So, um, there's going to be, failures and missteps with anything that you do, but you have to learn from that and, continue on. So, um, shout out to Warren G.
Yeah, definitely.
Shout out to people who grew up in those same environments and chose to go a different route and are the true leaders and who actually did go against the grain. um so yeah, that's it from me.
All right. And just the last thing for me, man, is man, you're gonna become your most successful, man, when you stop worrying about what everybody else thinks
Facts.
and you get that fuck it mentality where you just like, look, I'm going
Facts.
for my goal. Everybody else is like, man, their opinions is meaningless to me unless they come in with some constructive feedback.
Or
That's
some money.
different. But if they like sitting there, they trying to distract you and making fun of you because you got your stuff together, it's like, man, get in that gym, get focused, develop your mindset, man, your character. And while you're lapping them and stuff, and they're declining because they're trying to impress everybody else and stuff, and you growing, man, them outcomes, you just can't lie about it. And one last thing, man, just a quick story. It's funny because like a lot, like you hit on it with the alpha stuff, where a lot of men think like being over the top and being loud is the alpha guy. And it's funny, man, because when I was younger, I used to like fight a lot. So I remember one of my cousins was like, man, you always get into fights, man. You can't fight. And I was like, man, I'm out here. I'm fighting all the time. Man. My man took me to a gym, and there was this little kid. He was like reading a comic book, just sitting on the bench in a boxing gym. And this when I was first boxing. I'm looking at this cat. I'm like, oh, I'm about to give him that work. That dude whooped my ass. But it was a wake up call, man. And it kind of showed me, man, because like I said, I did a lot of like combat sports growing up where, that was like one of the first things where I'm like, man, you can't judge a book by its cover. This kid was like looking nerdy as hell, man. He was just sitting there chilling, reading his little comic book. I'm like, oh, I'm about to give him this work. I was like, there's a total difference from like being tough, untrained to like people that sit in that gym locking and, like you said, they ain't out there oppressing people because they're actually doing tough shit. So that's what a lot of people, the most like people that bark a lot and talk a lot, man, they ain't trained up. They like, I hear a lot of dudes that be alive like, oh, I was undefeated on the neighborhood. Like, man, when them dudes trained or anything, like hop in that ring, they be like, oh, I don't fight no more. So, it's just like, man, the people like that you think are squares and stuff, look at the MMA and go to your like nearest gym that has like MMA kickboxing, and they're typically not gonna be the coolest looking people, but they in there dedicated training. They doing that work because like everybody in my gym, man, they ain't worried about looking cool or going out to everybody like, oh, I'm tough, man. They do tough stuff on a regular basis where it's like, man, you ain't gotta like be out here barking. So that's another thing I like that you brought up, and even Warren G was talking about. It's like, man, you don't never know what somebody doing. Because even in my military, them the most deadliest people. One of the cats that was probably the best like shooter, long range. He looked like a librarian. I remember because we was like kind of teasing him, and then he came up to the range with one of the sniper rifles. This cat was so like accurate. He was like, what's Will Smith's movie that like
Gemini
where he
Man?
never missed, the bullseye and stuff. Man, I was like, hey, everything I said, I'm sorry. I was like, I like to apologize. Me and that cat became best friends. But my man was like not missing anything. And I'm like, shh, you can't judge that book by its cover, man. So get that stuff out your mind about people being tough, man. It's all facade,
Oh yeah.
But definitely great message. And we out of here. Peace.
Peace.